Oh, my friends, it is a rare occasion to be able to say that it is time to play an entire new Swery game. Because that doesn't happen often. The last time I played an entire Swery game was Spy Fiction. Because, yeah, Spy Fiction, Deadly Premonition, those were entire games. Then D4 came out, and I played that in early 2015. That was not an entire game, of course. That was just Season 1. Then there was nothing from Swery for quite some time. Then earlier this year, we played the prototype demo for The Good Life, but of course that's just a very short, rough demo. Now is the first time in years that I've been able to play an entire Swery game from beginning to end. And I guess before we get into that, we should probably talk about D4 and what happened with that, or what we can assume happened with that, because Swery is not with Access Games anymore. It's not making games with them, and Access Games is who owns D4. I guess Microsoft also has ownership of that as well. Swery's not working with them, so what's happened? What happened? Why isn't he making D4? I guess we should get into that before we get into the new game. So, D4 came out in late 2014. I played it in early 2015. I enjoyed it. I was interested in seeing where that was going, but there was never a Season 2. Why is that? Well, we can certainly assume some things. I don't know how much about this Swery has talked about publicly, how many details he's given, though he does hint at things if you follow his Twitter. I can only assume that, one, the game didn't sell enough. I think that one is pretty clear that's not a game that is going to sell big. But I don't think that's the only reason why that game didn't continue. I think a big reason was that the game was originally funded by Microsoft. And if you remember, back during the early days of the Xbox One, Microsoft was funding games that would use the Kinect. Because Microsoft was very into the Kinect. You know, they were very much saying that the Kinect would be an essential part of the Xbox One. That's how you would control an Xbox One. There would be no such thing as an Xbox One without a Kinect. All of them would have Kinects. That would just be a necessary part of using the system. So Microsoft funded a number of Kinect-controlled games, because that's what they were going to be doing with that system, right? Except you might also remember that Microsoft then proceeded to have some severe popularity problems with the Xbox One. So Microsoft decided to change directions on that. They changed management in the Xbox division. And one of the first things they did under new management was they cut out the Kinect. Just no one wanted it. It was too expensive. Let's get it out of here. So, if they're no longer pushing the Kinect, there was really no reason for Microsoft to continue to fund Kinect-controlled games, was there? No, there wasn't. So, the Kinect said goodbye, but also D4 said goodbye as well. I don't know if Swery has said that, but that's just always been my idea as to why D4 didn't continue. Probably a big one. So, nothing else from D4 after that. There was an attempt to try to save it, in that they ported it to the PC, and I figured that the PC would have a larger audience for that kind of game, but it really didn't sell much on there either. Unfortunate, because it was a good PC port. The game could run in higher resolutions, could run in 60 FPS. The Kinect controls were replaced with mouse controls. And I thought it was a very good port. Unfortunately, it just didn't sell. And then, to put the nail in the coffin after that, Swery took a break due to health reasons, as he was recovering from reactive hypoglycemia. So he was out for a while because of that, and all of these things put together, I just assume meant that there was just not going to be any D4 anymore. So, that's that for D4. As far as whether or not we'll ever get the story as to what was going to happen in D4, I doubt it. Swery has been asked this, and the answer has always been that he does not own D4. Access Games owns it. He can't actually just talk about the story. So, that's an unfortunate thing. I really like D4. I really was interested in seeing where that story was going, but it just stopped dead, and it doesn't seem like there's any chance that will ever come back again. Well, at the end of 2016, Swery left Access Games, and the reason I've been mentioning D4 is because I'm going to assume all that stuff is the reason Swery left Access Games. Swery, I don't think left amicably. If you read Swery's Twitter, he will frequently refer to the villains. And I am assuming when he refers to villains that he's talking about his former management at Access Games, because I don't know who else he would be talking about. I'm assuming that he's talking about his old bosses. So I don't think that was I don't think there were good feelings in that split. But I think that a lot of this, why Swery left Access Games, had to do with what happened with D4. So, after that, Swery started his new game studio called White Owls, which is, if you're wondering what this image you've been seeing on the screen for the past 5 minutes is, that would be Swery with a white owl on his arm, which was, I think this was one of the first images that was shown when Swery announced his new studio. So, what have they been working on? Well, earlier in the year, we found out about The Good Life. Actually, I'm trying to remember now. When did they first announce The Good Life? Because the Kickstarter was not the first time they announced it. They'd first had a FIG campaign for The Good Life. And that campaign failed. So they tried a crowdfunding campaign again, this time on Kickstarter, and this time it succeeded. Just barely. It seemed like it was going to fail again for a while, but then at the end, funding really picked up and they made it. And they had released that playable demo at the time, and that seemed to help a lot with the funding on that Kickstarter. So, The Good Life was funded. This is going to be White Owl's independently published game. When is it going to come out? Well, it's supposed to come out, I think, November of 2019, if I remember right. However, I don't know if that's actually going to happen. It is a Kickstarter game, and those tend to be delayed. But the Kickstarter succeeded, so the only thing to do would be to sit around until we saw something more of The Good Life. Except, no, that's not the case. Swery then announced that, surprise, White Owls had actually been working on another game during this time, and this game was not independent. This game was published by Arc System Works, and it would be called The Missing. So we would not have to wait 2 years or so to see a game from White Owls, because they had already been working on a game, and it would be coming out during 2018. And it did. It came out last month in October of 2018. The full name of the game being The Missing, J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories. So, just wanted to go through that to give a little backstory as to what happened between D4 and the game we're going to be playing now, The Missing. D4 is over, unfortunately will never be continued, because Swery is no longer with Access Games. Swery is with his new studio, White Owls, and they're working on new properties. And the first thing that has been released is the game that we are going to be playing right now, The Missing, J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories. And here we are. You might have noticed that warning at the beginning. It does have extreme violence, though actually it's not really a gory game. Gore is more inferred rather than shown, but I guess we'll see what that's about. Well, we're starting The Missing. You can see the island off in the distance, the Island of Memories. We're going to start a new game, which is going to erase all my progress, but you know what? That's fine.
The Missing. JJ! Hey, this way.
Memoria Island. A remote island in North America, just off the coast of Maine. Filled with artifacts left over from the good old days, this island has the power to awaken the formative memories of all its visitors. The island's ancient inhabitants called it a Lapo Grimo, which means place to find the lost in their long-forgotten language.
Nuh-uh. No, you always say that.
Really? Oh no.
Nuh-uh. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Oh, stop it. It's such a beautiful night.
Yeah, it sure is.
It feels like we're the only people left in the world. Hey, JJ. We'll be together forever, right?
Whoa, Emily. What exactly are you asking?
Well, it's just... the stars look so pretty.
You're such a romantic.
You're one to talk. You just hide it better. You love this kind of stuff, don't you?
I certainly don't hate it.
Press X to "Oh fine."
JJ! Hey! JJ! JJ!
Emily?
Well, there was some kissing happening, but kissing has been cut short. I don't think we can go this way for very far. No, we can't. So that's our setup. JJ and Emily have come to this island for good times. But good times are not going to happen. Good times were cut short. Emily's gone for some reason. You might have noticed her voice had a very familiar effect to it if you've watched Twin Peaks. Which Swery totally didn't before he made Deadly Premonition. He's watched it now. Not before then, though. Not before. But we don't know where Emily went. She's nowhere to be found. Fortunately, we only have 2 dimensions we can run in, so... the game is all about moving from left to right. Oh, there's a white rabbit. Maybe we should follow it. There's a donut up there. Maybe we should get it. JJ loves donuts, you see. Cannot get enough of donuts. We must go out of our way to get donuts whenever we can. There we go. 1 donut out of 271 donuts. Of course, we're going to get all of them. This will be a 100% donut run. I could even think that we would leave any donuts behind. So the way this game operates reminds me a lot of Inside, if you've played that. The details are different, but just the basic way the game works makes me think of that. It's very different from the normal type of thing you would expect from Swery.
Emily?
Well, Emily was being chased by...
What was that?
It's a good question. Also, another good question is, what is this? As JJ is apparently looking down on JJ, who is dead on the ground, killed by that giant thing, which is now chasing Emily. We're not going to observe the body on the ground. We can't do anything to check it out. Like, I could do this. We are not acknowledging that our body is on the ground, however. We can crawl around in the blood, but we're not going to mention anything about it, I suppose. Well, it's gone now. There was a JJ here, but it's gone now. Well, the only thing we can continue to do is try to go after Emily. She seems like she's in trouble. Well, that white rabbit just ran the other way, but we can't go back to the left. We have to keep going forward.
Emily, where are you?
Thanks, Owl. And we do have an Emily button.
Who's there?
Rather, it's more like a general call-out button.
Is anyone there?
JJ will call for people, usually Emily.
Emily, where are you?
Not always Emily.
Hoo-hoo.
We might go, hoo-hoo. We might do that.
Hello? Emily, where are you? Who's there? Hoo-hoo.
No one's answering. No one is there to answer. But we have donuts. There's that white rabbit. So it is a very different kind of game than you normally would expect from Swery. We've come to expect games in the sort of more adventure sort of mold, such as Deadly Premonition or D4. This one is more, I want to say, pure gameplay. There is a lot of story and a lot of narrative. So I shouldn't say pure gameplay, but it does have more of a focus on gameplay than I think his previous games did. Well, I can't jump up there. How do I get that? Let's crawl over here. Let's pull this box out. Well, my game just minimized because Microsoft Windows Store Gamer application has been detected. Well, it's talking about Skype. I don't want to run Skype. I hope that didn't affect the recording. Must be the island of memories messing with me, minimizing the game, so it will. So I will not be able to find Emily. Let's push this down. So yeah, a lot of the puzzles in this game, a lot of them have to do with mobility. How do you get from one place to another? How do you jump up to a certain place? How do you cross a gap? How do you pull a switch? As we continue to move across the island trying to find Emily. Alright, let me crouch down. And now this will let me pull this up. Pull this out. And there is a lot of dialogue in the game. Not that much voiced dialogue, mind you. There is a lot of text dialogue.
Hello?
Donuts. Waterfall donuts, the best kind. Well, this weather is pretty wet, so I guess we need to watch out for that falling rock. Like that. But falling rocks will not prevent us from getting our donuts. In fact, rocks will help us get a donut. You might wonder what the reason is that I'm getting these donuts. There is a reason. It's not just to be a collectible. There is something that we will get from getting these donuts. We will get story. We will get dialogue. We'll get characterization. Is what we get from these donuts. That's what we get for going out of our way to find these donuts. Green Falls Power Station. This is a more dangerous area. We are prohibited from entering without permission. Well, JJ does not have permission, but it's kind of an extreme circumstance. Emily seemed like she was in trouble. What with the being chased by a giant, a shadowy giant, and also the backwards talking. Well, there goes a moose. We should also pay attention to the sign. It says, "Watch out for lightning." That's a bad sign to be around. Danger. You might be struck by lightning bolts. But even though the island might be dangerous, it's also beautiful. This giant field of purple flowers, and the beautiful windmill on fire. It only makes the windmill even more beautiful. At least these windmills are around to be the target of the lightning bolts instead of JJ.
Sharks administrative Major Hemorrhage. Major Hemorrhage. Major Hemorrhage.
We can press Y to erg. And also press Y to Emily. Press Y to I can't die here. That sounds good.
Why?
Our plushie that we were carrying around also got struck by lightning. And it dissolves into ashes.
Tell me that what I hear is true and I am not dreaming. Show me the way that I can find all the answers I'm seeking. Steady, the fire burns my skin, but I cannot feel it. Ready tonight to take the bullet with my name on it. Take me down those old cobbled streets where we used to meet. Maybe that way I can see sun and the stars again. The sun and the stars
Hey, JJ.
Getting struck by a lightning bolt and then pulling yourself back together would probably be pretty painful. Well, this is the general mood that we're going to get from The Missing. It's maybe a bit more morose than what you would usually expect from Swery. There is humor, as we saw that we were resurrected by a doctor with the head of a deer or moose. So there is Swery weirdness, there is that Sweriness, but in many ways it's a sadder game, a sadder story than you might expect from Swery 65. But JJ continues running. I like that running animation. Got the arms up in the air. Oh, we got a text. And here's a big part of the game, text messages. Except it's not from Emily, it's from FK. Well, FK appeared to have been destroyed, but he can still talk to us through the phone. But JJ perhaps doesn't really believe that her plushie is texting her. Kind of like how they're throwing out a couple of the main things that you would be thinking of at this point. This text message has JJ wondering if she's dead or maybe dreaming. Could be either one of those, because those are things you would expect to be in this story, right? Maybe? Hard to tell. But with that, I believe we are now leaving the opening area of the game. And we are learning about the main game mechanic of the game. Well, we're ahead now. Oddly, we can move around pretty well as a head. We can roll around, we can jump up. That has to hurt, falling down on the head like that. In the upper left-hand corner, it is telling me to press Y, so... And we reform, we regenerate. We can take partial injuries, like that. And this is what I meant by why that the game has a lot of violence, but the gore is sort of implied. When JJ gets injured, she turns into a silhouette. If we had a clear image of what was happening there, it would probably be pretty gory, but we don't. There goes a leg. And let's see... Get back up. JJ is only on one leg. She can't travel very far. No, she can't. But we can resurrect, well, not resurrect, but regenerate from any of these injuries. So, JJ now has this power of regeneration. And she's going to have to use that to get through this island and find Emily. When the only power you have is to heal from any injury, then clearly you're going to have to get injured a lot, aren't you? Well, I believe that we are now entering the waste treatment area, and that means that we're going to say goodbye for right now. As we have started The Missing, J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, we've went through the first area, and now we're going to enter the second, as we can see that there is a danger of drowning. So hopefully that doesn't happen next time. I'll see you then as we continue through Swery's latest.